You know these muscles? This is the so-called rotator cuff, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and teres minor. A muscle complex which is often of big interest to physical therapists, especially in context of shoulder problems. Today, I'm going to explain why rotator cuff is a really stupid name and how it demonstrates lack of understanding of anatomy and biomechanics. How come these muscles are being called rotators in the first place? Well, it's an issue of looking at muscles' function in isolation. Indeed, when we look at them individually, at their origin and insertion points, we see that their isolated contraction causes internal rotation and external rotation of the shoulder. Everything is correct until we understand that normally, naturally, muscles pretty much never operate in isolation. We never use just one muscle to perform a movement. Just look at these again and think of at least one situation from our day-to-day life in which we do them. Well, outside of visit in physio office, of course. So is these muscles' function actually this? All we have to do is consider their anatomy for just a little bit longer. First, we see that these muscles insert very close to the shoulder joint itself, which means the moment arm, and therefore strength, they're able to generate is rather small. So assuming that their primary function was to produce rotational movements, this will be highly inefficient. Their primary function is something else. Looking again at how the muscles run from origin to insertion, we can see how during the shoulder movement, they pull the head of the humerus into the acetabulum. So they stabilize the humerus against the shoulder blade. As a great analogy, imagine two guys that are about to pick up a long, heavy ladder. One of the guys, weaker of the two, holds one end of the ladder against the ground, stabilizing it, while the other guy, stronger, picks up the ladder by its other end. The weaker guy is a rotator cuff, while the stronger guy represents the prime movers of the shoulder, like deltoids and traps. Physical therapists are right about one thing. The rotator cuff muscles are indeed important in context of maintaining healthy shoulders. But in order to take care of them properly, we need to understand two important things from the ladder analogy. First is that stronger and weaker muscles always work together, never on their own. And secondly, they have to be growing in strength hand in hand. If the ladder gets heavier, both the stronger and the weaker guy have to get stronger if they want to be able to lift it. So for strengthening our shoulders effectively, we need to pick exercises that engage the entire shoulder area and also force the rotator cuff muscles to perform their proper function as stabilizers at the same time. And the absolute best exercise that meets these criteria is the press, which is often called the overhead press or the military press, but in the proper training terminology, this is the press. The press is the pinnacle of natural shoulder function. It engages all the muscles of the shoulder area in an effective way over a long, safe range of motion. Because it's done with a barbell, it allows for small incremental weight increases for a very long time. When you're pressing a heavy barbell, and mind you that heavy is relative, for me heavy may be 200 pounds, for someone else heavy may be 50 pounds. But when you're pressing an actually heavy barbell over your head, it is impossible for any muscle of the shoulder area not to be engaged. By the same mechanism, other exercises based on natural movement patterns that engage the shoulders are also going to be useful in strengthening the rotator cuff. We definitely can't overlook the chin-up, which you should include in your training program right next to the press. But even exercise such as the deadlift is also going to be effective here. But the press is still the undisputable winner here. Just like training the deadlift is the best recipe for healthy and pain-free back, the same way training the press is the best recipe for healthy and pain-free shoulders. And if you've ever heard from somebody, perhaps a physical therapist, that press is a bad and dangerous exercise, then you had been speaking to somebody who has no understanding of anatomy and biomechanics. Exercises like these are not only a waste of time, but it can also potentially be detrimental. Even if you perform them with very little resistance, a rubber band or a 3-pound dumbbell, you're focusing all that resistance on these weaker muscles alone, which are designed to work always along with stronger ones. It's like this weaker guy was now supposed to lift that ladder by himself. This is a very easy way to overuse them. Now, you may not experience the effects of that during the exercise itself, but on some other occasion, while lifting something heavier, for example. This is basically the essence of the problem with isolation exercises, and we'll have to elaborate on that sometime. But that's it for today. If you find this information helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it is the best way to help the channel grow. Also check out the Facebook page, linked down in the description. See you next time.